In this video, we are going to celebrate UConn's Big East victory over Creighton. 50-70, UConn got up. But to be fair, the real focus of the video is going to be why UConn fans should be confident going into the tournament. Is UConn underrated if they go into the tournament as a 2 seed? But before we start, if you enjoy the content, then please consider subscribing to the channel and giving the video a like. All right, let's get into this. So UConn, this video is a day late, I would say. UConn got up on Creighton 70-50. It was one of those games where all of the big three, Strong, Fudd, and Beckers, they all did well. So Strong went for 13 points on 6 of 13 shooting. Fudd, she went for 13 points on 4 for 10 shooting and 3 from 8 from the three-point line, and Beckers, her usual efficient self, went 7 for 14 for 24 points. Not surprisingly, UConn controlled the game from the opening. Creighton made some runs, but it was never really in doubt. The best part, I think, for UConn fans, or the moment you felt the safest, was with about 2 minutes, Gino started subbing out Page, and then Fudd went out. And once they were off the court, it was like, sigh. They've made it through the season. Everybody's healthy and ready for the tournament. Paige Beckers picked up Most Outstanding Player for the tournament. That's the third time she has done that. Of course, Gino Ori tweaked her a bit, all in good fun, saying the award should have gone to Sarah Strong.
Well, I think Sarah should have got it. I mean, I'm just saying that because somebody will write it, she'll hear it, she'll read it, and then I'll have to deal with it, which will be fun.
But it's pretty clear UConn is going into the tournament feeling pretty good about themselves, the players and the coaches. And Auriemma outlined this. Last year, they went into the tournament on a knife's edge. If any player got hurt or got in foul trouble, it just limited their ability to compete. As well, if they were getting monstered by a team up front, they had no backup plan to go big. All they had were their 6-man rotation and hope it works out. And it did. They made it to the Final Four incredibly with no depth. But this year, they can win in multiple ways. Obviously, their small lineup with Sarah Strong at the 5 is their best lineup. But they can play big too. El Alfie's numbers, like some of the lineups, look good with El Alfie's.
Does Jen know where you would like her to be right now, or how much further do you feel she has?
Yeah, I'm anxious to see what happens in the tournament because she has gotten better. There is some things that we got to definitely address. She needs to be more physically engaged and on the offensive end. I just think she gets pushed around a little bit, and there's no reason for that. So we have to spend some time with her on that. I also think she's shooting the ball in practice pretty well from that 15-foot, 16-foot area. So I want to try to give her some confidence in doing that because a lot of teams are playing off of her. So I think that's an opportunity that we can address.
If Jana doesn't rise up to the level you want, are you happy with the small lineup alternative you have?
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing we can do about it. I think Ice missing all that time. I think we need her to be a little more consistent now. So hopefully we can do that because if we can get Jenna, Ice, Sarah, that gives us a lot of different ways that we can mix and match. Some teams you're going to need a bigger lineup, but also against some of those teams, a small lineup is even better. The biggest challenge for us would be, can we defend some of those teams that this year are, very post heavy, and there's a lot of really good ones out there.
But you just look at the numbers in the lineups. There's so many different ways they can put it together to attack teams, which is totally different from what they had the season before. In terms of injuries, the big one is that Morgan Shelley is out, as she had one of the better lineups. I don't know if she would have gotten a lot of time this year as a rookie, is after she sustained her ankle injury. She lost minutes, but in that game versus USC, that lineup of KK, Arnold, Shade, Paige Beckers, Chelly, and Strong single-handedly got them back into that game, as it was plus 12, scoring 1.32 points per 100 possessions, which is 94 percentile. And though Chelly is gone, the hope is with Aubrey Griffin, who missed the weekend due to knee soreness. They say it's minor, but you slot Aubrey Griffin in there, and she will help give you those explosive lineups in explosive periods in a game. But really, even with that, the reason you're excited for this postseason is because the big three is there. That being obviously Paige Beckers, AZ Fudd, and Sarah Strong. Gino Auriemma was effusive of Sarah Strong's third quarter. He's like, that's what we're going to need in the tournament. When she takes over or wants to dominate, she can. In the press conferences, I love how they ask questions, but if I was going to ask one question, it would be to Sarah Strong. Hey, have you ever been annoyed in a game? Has somebody ever elbowed you or you've gotten irritated at somebody, and what happened after that? Or ask the other players, have you ever seen Sarah Strong get annoyed in practice, and what happened after that? Because I can only imagine the havoc she can cause if she's annoyed and just wants to put it to the team. She's almost too nice in a lot of ways. The other big difference is just the 3-level game that Sarah Strong has. To be that big and to have a 3-level game. Aaliyah Edwards was great for UConn last year. Like, she was tough inside and held up really well when they didn't have anybody else. But Strong just gives you a different level. And then when you pair her up with Fudd and Beckers, who can spread the court, it really is unfair for their opponents, especially when they are clicking. Before Fudd went down with her injury versus Louisville, they just dominated Louisville. It was an on night, and they won by about 30. You're like, wow, this team's going to be amazing. And then Fudd had her knee injury. And then, of course, idiots like me are saying, will AZ Fudd ever be able to deliver in the big games? And South Carolina came, and she just dominated that game. And that, of course, is the redundancy. If AZ Fudd has a bad night, hopefully she'll be picked up by either Sarah Strong or Paige Beckers or vice versa. And then this leads into Charlie Cream, who has UConn as a 2 seed, which is fine. I said in my previous video, it does not really matter because there will be 2 good teams in each region. So if UConn was a 4 and Texas was a 5, they're still going to meet anyway. So I don't think it's a big deal. But I am surprised that UConn would not be a 1 seed just because of the beatdown they put down on South Carolina. On the road, no less. I mean, what is the excuse for South Carolina in that loss? They were tired or fatigued. Maybe that's the best one they can come up with. But the game was, UConn was on the road. They were up for that game. They wanted to destroy UConn. And then you look at the offensive rating and defensive rating in quad 1 games. UConn is plus 27.5. Their offense is ridiculous, 114.4. That's 99 percentile. And their defensive rating is 86.9 or 85 percentile. The numbers across the board are devastating. The next best team by far is South Carolina, who is plus 22.8, which is 95th percentile. And they're number 2, and UConn put a beat down on them by 29 points in their own building. Texas, who is a 1 seed, they went down to South Carolina by 19 points on the road. Then they won at home by 4 points, and then they lost in the tournament. Now Vic would say that's a road game by 17 points. How are they going to be a 1 seed over UConn? As well, I can understand South Carolina being ranked ahead of UCLA, as South Carolina's loss was at UCLA. It's tough on the road, but it's hard to understand how South Carolina is ranked above UConn when UConn beat them by 29 points. And you could point out and say, hey, UConn had a loss to USC at home and to Notre Dame on the road, but those were close games, and UConn would point out we did not have AZ Fudd. Now, Hannah Hidalgo would dismiss this, but it appears that that is important because when AZ Fudd was in the lineup versus Louisville and when she was playing with South Carolina, it just makes it so much easier because you have 3 to space the court. And if they are playing well, good luck to you because you are going to need it, as their offense is just ridiculously good because they are scoring 114 points in quad 1 games. That's number 1, 99 percentile. And have no doubt a good offense helps. If we look at 2023-24, the top teams in quad 1 games, Iowa was first with 113 points per 100 possessions. Then it was South Carolina at 110. followed by Stanford at 108, and then UConn at 106. So it helps. Those were your Final Four teams. It helps to have a good offense. So Stanford did not make the Final Four, obviously. They got upset, but 3 out of the 4 top scoring teams made it to the Final Four. And in a one and done scenario like the tournament, anything can happen. So just because you're the top scoring rated team doesn't guarantee that you will win the tournament or make the Final Four, but it does look a lot better. That means if you have a normal night, you should do very, very well. Anyway, I'll leave it over to you. If you're a UConn fan, are you bullish and very excited about the tournament? And do you want UConn to be a 1 seed, or would you prefer them to be a number 2 seed and play the nobody respected us card and they don't believe in us, versus what you will hear if UConn does get rated or a 1 seed? The UConn bias, the committee's bias. What is, as a UConn fan, what is your preference? To be a 1 seed, or would you rather be a 2 seed and have UConn going in with a bit of a chip on their shoulder? Thanks a lot for watching. Now it's over to you. Your comments, your poison, it's all welcome. Have a great night.